everyone. I hope your night's going really well so far. Now, when I was asked to do this speech, I started reminiscing about like my first thoughts of Escamilla. And when I thought back about it, I realized it wasn't even when I got into the school yet. Because my big brother, Creevan, he's gonna go up here after me, probably. But my earliest memories of West Covina is wanting to go to West Covina. Because every time my brother would come back from school, and school was like, I don't know, I guess watching like Caillou and things like that, I was really excited. And whenever he'd come back, he'd start telling me about what he learned and what he did, and I'd be like, whoa, you did that! You raised wood box cars, that's so exciting! How do you count to 100? And that made me so hyped up for the school, and when I got into it, it wasn't even a disappointment either. It was just like, when I think back about my early life at the school when I was a kid, I was kind of a little bit bratty. And if you know my family, they would say, like, what, when you were a kid, you're plenty bratty now. But when I thought back about it, I was pretty bad. Because I went into the school with all the information that my brother gave me. I thought I already knew everything. Because I was like, oh, teach me what you learned today, or that kind of thing. And an interesting fact about me is that the school shaped me a lot. Because at the start of it, I was pretty bad. In fact, by first or second grade, I was one of the only people during my stay there that actually got suspended. So, I don't know if that's saying that I got a lot better now, so they want me to talk, or hopefully that's what it means. But a lot of what the school raised me as, and one of the reasons why I think it raised me is that when I went to high school at iPoly, just like Angie, one of my history teachers talked about how they think of us as their kids. Because he thought about how much time do you spend at school? You spend 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., that's 7 hours. Meanwhile, how much time do you spend at home talking to your family? So really, when you send your kid to school, you're sending them to babysitters, you're sending them to people that also raise them.
That's right.
And so a lot of what my life is because of the school. For example, me and my brother find ourselves very attracted to comedy. And one of the first reasons why we did that is because it's actually very nostalgic for me. Because my first or second year at West Covina, they had a Christmas talent show. And me and my brother really liked VeggieTales, and so we really liked the Pirates Who Don't Do Anything. And we went on stage, and we told really, what's the word?
Corny?
Bad pirate jokes. You know, things like, what does the pirate drink? Orange juice. Things like that. And so we kind of kept it up for the rest of our lives. Every time we go up and speak somewhere, we try to be at least, a little bit entertaining and funny. So hearing you guys laugh is very, very comforting. Not only that, but I really grew myself liking stories. And one of the reasons is also back in kindergarten, in Teacher Patty's class, I found an old Bernstein's Bear book. And I didn't know what it was, so I opened it up. And I saw these characters that I couldn't read. So I thought, if I stare at it long enough, I'll understand what they mean. I grew very frustrated, obviously, because I can't just learn how to read. So that kind of kept with me to when I did learn how to read, I tried reading everything. Everything. So much that nowadays, actually, part of it's because of the school's library. I read a lot of Narnia, and that led me liking fantasy books. And the more I started to grow liking books, I started writing my own novels for fun. Like, for my senior year at iPoly, we do a senior project. And so by the end of that project, you create a physical object that represents what you put your time into. And I actually ended up finishing a novel that way. But I really ended up liking stories because of the school. One of the things was they do this thing where they read you classic children's stories. When I was around, I think, 5th grade at the time, I learned a lot. I really like storytelling because the teacher would tell you the story, you'd read along. So I knew a lot of classics, like The Great Horn Spoon, which is about the gold rush, or The Whipping Boy. And I just really liked me to vocally telling stories. Another thing was Mr. Ingram's Riddles, who used to be an 8th grade teacher over there. And it really challenged your head. And even though it was math class, half of the class wasn't really about math. Another thing that West Covina did for me is that religiously, it kept God consistently in my life. Yeah. Because throughout my life, I can say that I dabbled in a lot of things. I said like storytelling, I did a lot of filmmaking, that kind of thing. In fact, by my 8th grade at West Covina, I ended up helping them create an ad for the spring fair. But being able to have God consistently with me has basically been the only constant thing in my life. Because I've grown to I'll like Lord of the Rings for a while, and then I'll stop liking it for a while. And then, I like Star Wars. And I'm like, I don't like Star Wars that much right now. But God has always been consistent. I'll always devote my life to Him. I'll always think about Him as a friend. Amen. Being at West Covina taught me a lot of the fundamentals of Christian faith. And one of the things that I found really interesting is that when I started my first year at iPoly, they have a social studies class, and they talk about religion. And a lot of people, when they start talking about it, they talk about, did you know that just because you say you're Christian, there are sects of Christianity? And a lot of people, I was surprised to find out, a lot of people were surprised that they didn't know that, wait, I can't just say I'm Christian, there's more to it? We're not all the same? It'd be, it turns out you're a Baptist, you're a Catholic. And so me knowing that in the first place really, it was really eye-opening to see what other people knew. It also led to a lot of things where the friend group that I created at iPoly for the new friends that I made, they were very nerdy, and so we played a lot of video games. And they noticed that every Friday night and Saturday morning, I would never be online, and they could never play with me. And so eventually they would ask me, why don't you play on Friday night and Saturday morning? It's like they try to make plans with me. It's like, there's this raid coming out. We should do it on this Friday night. I was like, no, I can't do that. And they'd ask me, well, why can't you do that? And thanks to West Covina and the church here, I was able to, give a satisfying answer as to our faith. By what the Sabbath means to us. Looking back on it, part of me wishes, iPoly was a great experience, but part of me wishes that I even continued my studies in a Seventh-day Adventist private school. Because last summer I went colportering, and a lot of people went to St. Gabriel, and they continued, going to a private Seventh-day Adventist high school. And they knew a lot of things that I that I wouldn't know unless I went out and learned it. Because they had Bible classes that went through what I think was the really nitty-gritty and fun things about our faith. They learned naturally. Meanwhile, I had to go to Bible studies or do extra stuff outside, to find my own time to learn about it. When I look at my life now, I can honestly say that it wouldn't be the same if I didn't go to West Covina. I'm the person that I am today because of West Covina Hills, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ethan, let's get